Good evening. This is Eswatini TV News Bulletin 8, read to you by myself, Natile Sitole, alongside Namakabiso Ngambule. First up, here's a look at our headlines. The Minister for ICT, Princess Sikanyiso, says the ministry is doing all it can for Eswatini to have a strong legal framework regulating the cyberspace. The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Defense, Prince Sikala, says the ministry will soon use technology to strengthen border controls. The acting Deputy Prime Minister has launched the Bamfabetu Foster Care Program. And now the news in detail. The Minister of Information and Communications Technology, Nkosatana Sikanyiso, says the ministry is doing all it can for Eswatini to have a strong legal framework regulating the cyberspace, data protection, as well as the broadcasting industry. The minister said this in a senators' workshop facilitated by the ministry and the Eswatini Communications Commission, in which 4 bills were unpacked and explained in detail to senators.
In the Senators' workshop held at the Happy Valley Hotel at Eswatini, senators were taken through 4 bills pioneered by the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology. These bills are the Computer and Cybercrime Bill, the Electronic Communications and Transactions Bill, the Data Protection and Broadcasting Bills. In this workshop, the Minister of Information and Communication Technology, Nkosatana Princess Sikanyiso, took time to explain why and how these pieces of legislation are important for the people of Eswatini.
The Cybercrime Bill covers quite a number of offences and provides for appropriate resources and sanctions for each. We are aware that such crimes are largely committed by individuals sitting outside the borders of Eswatini. Since the cyberspace has become the backbone of global commerce and communication, the ministry deems it necessary to develop the Electronic Communications and Transactions Bill. This bill is numbered amongst the requirements put forward by the World Bank in order to provide budgetary support to governments. Furthermore, Honourable President, since data has become the new gold, with the potential of benefiting Eswatini in numerous ways, the ministry has developed the Data Protection Bill. Personal information or data is important, Honourable President. The Ministry of Information, Communications and Technology is pleased, Ngosi, to get an opportunity to present to the Honourable Senators, again, the Eswatini Broadcasting Bill of 2019. Which primarily is aimed at providing a regulatory framework for all broadcasting services in the country. This, to our excitement, will result in the introduction of a 3-tier system of broadcasting.
Senate President Senator Lindiwe Dlamini commends the ministry for the strides it has taken in helping to improve the kingdom's digital space.
Honourable Minister, I wish to applaud your ministry for having significantly leapfrogged in the digital space. A recent good example will be that of the preparation of the opening of the 3rd session of the 11th Parliament. Your ministry was visibly on the ground and they made sure that everything was in order. To that, Sitsi Siyabonga Nkosi.
In this workshop, senators were afforded an opportunity to ask questions and to seek clarity on anything pertaining to the 4 bills. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube and Muzim Konda at Eswatini.
The Minister of ICT, Princess Sikanyiso, has given an assurance that once passed into law, the broadcasting bill will significantly contribute to the growth of the kingdom's broadcasting industry, as it will open doors for more players to enter the broadcasting space.
The ministry, Honourable President, views the bill as a key broadcast industry transformer and carries a huge impact in the socio-economic development of the country. In that, number one, it will trigger new investor interest in the broadcasting sector, with particular reference to the establishment of the new television and radio stations. 2, more jobs will be created, both formal and informal, across all sectors of the broadcasting industry. 3, the amalgamation of EBIS and the STVA will save government huge running costs as these institutions will now share resources. Everyone has gone audio-visual. Before you can make a movie, you need a soundtrack, you need instrumentals, you need visuals. So this all makes sense. The bill therefore promotes the development of the film and video production industry, which is currently the missing link in the full functional capacity of the new digital terrestrial television broadcasting network. Eswatini's ranking in relevant international index ratings will improve dramatically because the country will have conformed to key requirements of associate international organizations such as UNESCO, African Platform on Access to Information, the Southern African Broadcasters Association, the World Summit on Information Societies, to name a few. The country is competing for a substantial global funding through the United States-run Millennium Challenge Corporation, which is estimated at a whopping $40 million US.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Defense, Prince Sikalo, says the ministry is looking into venturing into modern ways of providing security along border lines instead of using foot soldiers. The Prince said this when the ministry appeared before the Public Accounts Committee.
When the Minister of Defense appears before the Public Accounts Committee, the committee chairperson Philip Teles wanted to know from the Ministry's Principal Secretary, Prince Sikalo, if the Ministry is planning to buy new fleet for the army as the current one is in bad condition. Meanwhile, Mangonggo, Member of Parliament, Wanpo Zigalala, raises concerns regarding shelter used by Umbutho Eswatini Defense First members. He says the structures are not in good condition, so the ministry should do something.
I think in an industry, no 70 that it is a liver club and you go into Kubanaga. Hey, Maho, Valana Masha, I think no Masangla Maternage, but Rubenate, who don't Kubanaga, it's about batteries.
Nale condition ngele njengale ngala nje kuMangqongqo labala la khona labantu angiboni batola sesikhathi esinganani ngale ungaphatha ngayo utawuphatha usoyinye umonye la
vele nato setiyaslupha dislupha kakhulu especially malokuthi setinzala seti nalapho fuel vele setiyasimosha kakhulu leto tinzaba leto.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Defense, Prince Sikalo, says the ministry is aware of both issues raised by the Public Accounts Committee. He added that the ministry was already looking into possible ways to resolve the issues. He says currently the country cannot build permanent structures for the army along border lines as there are underway talks regarding boundaries with neighboring countries.
New systems, maybe
It was for the first time that the PS appears before the Public Account Committee. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, with Bawethu Stole, Parliament.
Acting Deputy Prime Minister Thuli Dladla has officially launched the Bantwabethu Foster Care Program. The Acting Deputy Prime Minister Thuli Dladla says a lot of children lost their parents to COVID-19, hence this system will remedy the situation.
Bantwabethu Foster Care Program was developed by the Deputy Prime Minister's Office and SOS Children's Village as a response to the alarming number of children requiring foster care. People eligible to foster children is an adult Swazi citizen above the age of 25, and they can either be single or a married couple. The person or couple will then be assessed by a social worker to ensure if the applicant is fit to be a foster parent. Foster care can be short term from 1 week to 3 months, or medium term from 3 months to not more than 6 months. It can also last up until the child turns 18 years old, depending on the different types of cases. Acting Deputy Prime Minister, Minister Thuli Dladla, says a lot of children lost their parents due to COVID-19, hence this system will remedy the situation.
In my lifetime, this should mark the first serious attempt by Eswatini to institutionalize foster care, which I believe will augment our traditional and cultural methods to alleviate the rising incidence of children who have no parental care.
SOS Director Dr. Loretta Mkonda says the organization is raising 254 children without parental care, and in addition, the organization is also supporting 435 families and 1,481 children through its family strengthening program in 13 communities.
Why foster care? SOS Children's Villages Eswatini appreciates the collaboration that we have with the DPM's office in responding to the needs of children without parental care and ensuring the effective implementation of the UN guidelines on alternative care for children and the Eswatini guidelines on alternative care for children, both documents of 2009.
The acting Deputy Prime Minister says the office will undertake a nationwide campaign to conduct social mobilization on the foster care program in the country. She says by extension, the office requests the media to support and embrace this noble cause to undertake a social mobilization campaign. Reporting, I'm Lungile Makakula with Mbangwatube in Babane.
The acting Deputy Prime Minister Thuli Dladla has urged eMaswati to continue adhering to the COVID-19 regulations because there are still ongoing reports on the rise in coronavirus infections in other countries in the region. We have a report.
The acting Deputy Prime Minister, Minister Thuli Dladla, says government relies on every Liswati to be responsible to themselves and others and to do everything in their power to avoid igniting a third wave of the COVID-19 infections. She says this can be done by continuing to religiously wash hands with running water and soap or alcohol-based sanitizers, observing social distancing and wearing masks correctly at all times.
eMaswati siqhubekeni sihlahle emehlo silandzele.
We can only win this war if we work in unity and purpose as a nation, doing all we can to protect ourselves, our loved ones, and those we come into contact with on a daily basis.
Singahlali endlini ndzawonye sikhathi lesidze noma sihleli ndzawonye sifake timfonyo ubete lo wehlisa sifonyo noma ngabe uyakhuluma noma ngabe wendani siqhubeke sigeze tandla siqhubeke sipractice social distancing.
She says the reality on the ground is that the world is in a tight grip of new variants that are causing devastation in many countries. She says eMaswati should not let their guard down because the projected third wave could hit. Reporting, I'm Lungile Makakula with Mbangwatube in Babane.
The Minister for Justice, Polile Shakantu, has implored prosecutors and police officers involved in the prosecution of cases involving children to find ways on how to improve justice delivery for children. The Minister was speaking when officially opening a workshop where prosecutors and police officers and other stakeholders will deliberate on how to improve justice delivery in the kingdom.
The purpose of the workshop is to eliminate crime that involves children, women, the elderly, as well as those living with disabilities. Speaking when officiating the meeting, the Minister of Justice, Polile Shakantu, said such meetings will help restore confidence of the nation to the justice system of the country.
The primary objective in all of this is to reduce crime, especially crime against children, women, and other vulnerable groups like the elderly and people living with disabilities. My request, therefore, is that as you deliberate on improving justice delivery for children, I request you to pay attention to the following. First of all, how can we reduce or stop crimes against children from happening in the first place? Secondly, I'd like you to consider how we can make our criminal justice system more efficient in delivering justice for children. As the Deputy National Commissioner has said, issues like the establishment of a permanent full-time forensic laboratory for the Kingdom of Eswatini.
On behalf of the National Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner Mamsi Dlamini emphasized the importance of working together to improve justice delivery in the country.
This will ensure that adopted prosecutor guided investigation model that we practice as a country continues to run seamlessly and bears the desired results of deterring crime and other anti-social normaties.
CEO of World Vision, Francis Dube, says children need a safe environment and care in order to grow up to be the best versions of themselves.
We are cognizant of the fact that children cannot enjoy life in all its fullness when their rights are infringed upon and the harm is inflicted on them. We believe throughout the next few days, we shall work together to remind each other of our roles in ensuring safety of the children in the Kingdom of Eswatini.
Also present in the meeting was the Ministry of Health and the Human Rights Commission that are also very crucial when dealing with the cases involving children. Reporting for Eswatini TV, Nomalungelo Jele in Babane.
The Acting Minister of Public Services, Moses Vilagati, implores the Civil Service Commission to restore discipline within the civil service, as seemingly they are doing as they please. The Minister Vilagati said this during the swearing-in ceremony of the Commission's chairperson, Simanga Mamba.
The new Civil Service Commission chairperson Simanga Mamba was appointed towards the end of last week. Prior to the appointment, he has been serving as the Teaching Service Commission chairperson for 10 years. Mamba took 2 oaths, the oath of allegiance and the oath for due execution of office. The acting minister of the Public Service, Moses Vilagati, gave Mamba, together with the rest of the Civil Service Commission, a task to restore discipline within the civil service, as workers are seemingly doing things their way.
The Commission is responsible for ensuring the proper functioning of the government machinery through its major resource, which is the personnel. The Commission provides the heartbeat of government in that regards. The major challenge that government is facing at the moment, which is also a thorn in the flesh, is lack of discipline within the civil service. I will therefore implore the Commission to restore discipline within the civil service.
The newly appointed Civil Service Commission chairperson Simanga Mamba says the Commission will do everything possible to root out all wrongdoings among civil servants.
Sitawuhamba sihlangane sibukusane lama issues lo raise discipline ku civil service, ghost employees. We are aware ukuthi nema civil service la suspended for years, so la hola njengoba ukuraise. Sitayicela isupport yakho ukuthi sithi address letinto lethu.
Other members of the commission were also present when Mamba was sworn in. Meanwhile, the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service, Sitipopo Tshabetse, also emphasizes that the commission should work around the clock to quickly restore discipline within the civil service. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, with Bawetu Stole Mbabane.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service, Sipho Tshabetse, has informed the Public Accounts Committee in Parliament that the ministry will soon fill some vacant posts in the public service. Tshabetse was speaking when the ministry appeared before the PAC in Parliament.
The Public Accounts Committee wanted to know from the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service, Sipho Tshabetse, on what was the government doing to fill vacant posts in government ministries, which has since resulted in poor service delivery.
Teaching public service nyalo kuti kula matiko labadinga abantu laba professional kodwa bethe bona nyalo benda njani ukuthi lo hulumende tohamba ngamasonto lang4 enabanye lihamba ngamathathu. Manje le moto ayinoqhubeka kahle angathi ukuthi le policy lokuhambisa le moto ithini nyalo la hulumeni.
Principal Secretary Sipho Tshabetse, in response to their question, mentioned that the committee is still working towards this problem.
Matiko bahlonishwa ayabhala esihlalo cishe ngathi kude lengakahela bhala tiko lacela ukuthi limane lithole kuvumeleka ukuthi lifinishe ama-posts asasebenzayo. E-public service nje iyodwa cishe alapho over 20 ama-vacant posts ngalo ukuthi sikukhanza bahlonishwa vele kuyi-challenge uhulumende langahle abe nayo for some time until ku-improve le simo ngoba ma kungathiwa kuyaqhutshewa kuyaqashwa ungagcina kungaholwa kepha-ke public service bese ugcina ubuka yena ukuthi lokunenani kungcono sikase laba-temporary labatawuke babambile while lesimo sesibuka ukuthi siya-improve yini ngoba ku-expensive kakhulu ukuqasha umuntu lo permanent kungaba nebulukhulu lesikwenza konyalo currently kuleti celo siya-reviewa ukuthi mhlawumbe loqele 20 sibuke ukuthi kungabe 5 ngeke ingalikwa kanjalo lesitabu se-cabinet nje ingakaphelile inyanga sesiqedile le-assessment sendawo bahlonishwa.
Tabete informed the committee that they have managed to collect more than 500,000 emalangeni from individuals who were unlawfully awarded scholarship. Reporting for Eswatini TV is Alwande Mota and Fortune Dlangamandla Mbabane.
The Taiwan embassy has donated 50 bags of rice, a wheelchair, walking sticks and clothes to over 80 elderly people of Gwaliweni and Nzingeni constituency. On behalf of the Taiwan ambassador Jeremy Liang, senior secretary at the embassy Xiao Yang says it is always a pleasure for them to assist the Kingdom of Eswatini, especially during these harsh times of the COVID-19 pandemic. Moving on with our bulletin. Eswatini records over 800 cases of people diagnosed with different cancers every year. Cancer Control Unit Registrar Nomalanga Hlope has said. Hlope gave this update in a training session for clinic supervising nurses, which was held at the Happy Valley Hotel in Eswatini.
Upon realizing the increase in the number of cancer cases in Eswatini, the Cancer Control Department in the Ministry of Health has taken it upon itself to raise an awareness on this disease, with specific emphasis being on early detection among patients that visit the country's clinics for speedy referral to hospitals. Cancer Registrar in the Ministry of Health, Nomalanga Hlope, who was speaking in a training session for clinic supervisors, says even though Eswatini has a profile of about 60 cancers, yet the ministry is especially concerned about the 5 most prevalent types of cancer.
So they should know which symptoms really to look out for, basically. Then we have quite a number of cancers in the country. Our profile has more than 60 types of cancers, but we have top 5 cancers that we can talk about that are seen in our cancer registry, which are what? Cancer of the cervix, which makes about 50% of all women with cancer, 50 and above. We have cancer of Ikaposis sarcoma, we have prostate cancer, we have breast cancer, we have other cancers like lymphomas, leukemias, head and neck cancers are also in our top 5 or top 6. Then we don't want to leave out pediatric or childhood cancers. Those are cancers that occur in children ages 0 to 14 years. We have seen an increase in incidence of pediatric cancers or childhood cancers, and we know those have a cure rate of about 80% if well managed or detected early in developed countries, of course. But we want to increase the early detection of those for prompt treatment for the children.
Hlope encourages women of all ages to routinely go for cervical cancer screenings, especially since cervical cancer is easily treated when detected early. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Muzim Konda at Ezulwini.
The Taiwan embassy has donated 50 bags of rice, a wheelchair, walking sticks and clothes to over 80 elderly people of Gwaliweni and Nzingeni constituency. On behalf of the Taiwan ambassador Jeremy Liang, senior secretary at the embassy Xiao Yang says it is always a pleasure for them to assist the Kingdom of Eswatini, especially during these harsh times of the COVID-19 pandemic. Eswatini TV's Puma Pimsweli has a report.
While handing over the donated items, which include 50 bags of rice, a wheelchair, walking sticks and clothes to the elderly people of Gwaliweni, Senior Secretary at the Taiwan Embassy Xiao Yang says they always find it as a great pleasure to send help and assist the Kingdom of Eswatini whenever there is a need, especially during these difficult times of COVID-19.
So happy to bring such a gift to share with the chiefdom people in here. during pandemic time, it's very, very harsh time. We know that, but we would share this small gift, the rice parcel, and also wheelchair and the sticks to help the people and the villagers in here to share, have our heart.
Nzingeni constituency member of parliament Lutho Dlamini says he is grateful for the strong relationship between Taiwan and Eswatini, which is consistent regardless of the difficult period where the world has been greatly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sekwala ekwalweni kuphela ngoba nalokudla sikuthethele okunyekwa kule minye imiphakathi ethemba lo sesizawuneliseka sicela kufikela kufike khona sibongele sase-Taiwan abacali nalokusida and sicela lokuthi babuye masinyane balokuhlupheka khona.
The headman at Gwaliweni, Chiefdom Simeon Mbila, expressed his gratitude for the donation, which he says it will make a huge difference to the beneficiaries. Reporting for Eswatini TV News is Pumape Msweli, Gwaliweni.
Good evening once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Here's a look at our sports news. Young Buffaloes ladies coach Fisiwe Hlophe says the club has started preparations for next year's COSAFA Women Championships. Hlophe says taking part in this tournament will be a huge benefit to women football in the country. We have a report.
Thursday last week, Acting Prime Minister Themba Masuku announced different sporting codes that will be resuming their sporting activities, with women football being amongst the sporting codes that were announced. Young Buffaloes Ladies Club, that is amongst the dominating clubs in the women football in the country, has welcomed the news with both hands. Team coach Fisiwe Hlophe says the club is already looking forward to start preparations as they eye COSAFA Women Championship tournament for the clubs. Hlophe says they'll be working hard to ensure that they become the best in the league this coming season, when they'll be able to represent the country next year. Hlophe says taking part of these games will boost the local women football in the country.
Outside the country.
She concluded by wishing Manzini Wanderers all the best as they will be the club to represent the country in this year's competition. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Linda Dlamini, Manzini.
Well, Eswatini, that's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a relook at our top stories. The Minister for ICT, Princess Sikanyiso, says the ministry is doing all it can for Eswatini to have a strong legal framework regulating the cyberspace. The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Defense, Prince Sikala, says the ministry will soon use technology to strengthen border controls. The Acting Deputy Prime Minister has launched the Bamfabetu Foster Care Program. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from us here at Eswatini TV. Thank you for staying with us. Good night.